Hi, I'm Joel Reedy, an attorney at Cornerstone Law Firm. Today I want to talk to you about wrongful death in Pennsylvania. First thing you'll hear any lawyer tell you is that in the law, we can't bring back your loved one who died, but we can hold responsible the wrongdoer who caused this pain for your family. A wrongful death action is a type of personal injury action in which the deceased person's family recovers appropriate financial damages to cover the funeral costs, medical bills, estate expenses, and the loss of support and loss of consortium the family has experienced. Pennsylvania's Wrongful Death Act is found at 42 PACS Section 8301, and it governs how these cases are brought. The statute lays out who can bring a claim, who benefits from it, and how these claims must be handled in Pennsylvania. Wrongful death claims can be brought in a number of situations, including for car accidents, victims of negligence by a caretaker or a medical facility, for medical malpractice, for products liability when a product causes a death. They can even be brought for intentional murder. What wrongful death claims provide for a grieving family is often hard to establish. For many families, they ask, why bring an action if I can't bring my loved one back? A lawsuit seems woefully inadequate, and frankly it is. But it's important to understand that a wrongful death action is designed to allow you to recover the financial loss that you and your family have experienced. In my experience, many families don't realize the full impact financially of a death until long after someone has died. Wrongful death actions allow you to pursue damages, for example, for the care that someone gave to your family. You don't typically look at the people around you and ask, how much are they worth to me financially? But the reality is that everyone in your family that does things for your family, whether they're picking up kids, cooking dinner, taking care of the house, just showing up and being there for you at events that are important, there's a financial impact of all of this. And of course, when someone dies, there's also other immediate financial impact, the funeral and burial expenses, medical bills that your family may not know how to pay. Wrongful death is designed to allow your family to be made whole financially as a result of this. As lawyers, it's our job to help you figure out what the value is of the death in this case. Loved ones can receive contribution for the loss of services that we've just talked about, but they can also look forward and anticipate the services, gifts, and financial benefit they would have received in their lifetime. One example of this is that someone who works would have received a paycheck for the rest of their life. You, of course, we're not thinking this is the most important thing when someone passed away, but that paycheck is part of what your family has been deprived of and that someone's negligence caused. As a result, they or their insurance company should make you whole. There's also something called loss of consortium, and this is widely misunderstood, but it has to do with a loved one's right to pursue compensation for the loss of love and companionship they would have received. Obviously, this is extremely difficult to calculate, but it's also the most painful source of a loss for most families in a wrongful death situation. Pennsylvania allows you to pursue compensation for the emotional loss of the loved one to your family. For many families, the full impact of a death really takes time to settle in, but it's important to realize that you have 2 years to bring a wrongful death action. Wrongful death lawsuits will dissipate, that is, you'll lose many of your rights after 2 years. In some cases, you may have some rights after that time, but it's important that you speak to a wrongful death attorney quickly so you can assess whether you have a right to some sort of compensation. Wrongful death claims are often brought with something else called a survival action, and this is a really confusing term because obviously when we're talking about a survival action, we're still talking about someone's death. Survival action is named because in the old days, they wouldn't allow the pain and suffering that someone experienced before their death to survive them and be brought in a courtroom later. So survival action is part of the statute that Pennsylvania passed to address this, allowing that someone's pain and suffering, their medical bills, and other costs can be brought as part of this wrongful death lawsuit. In most cases, you're going to bring both a wrongful death and a survival action against the person who caused this death. The survival action is also found in the wrongful death statute in Section 8302, which is right next to the statute that I talked about a minute ago. It reads quite simply, all causes of action or proceedings, real or personal, shall survive the death of the plaintiff or of the defendant, or the death of one or more joint plaintiffs or defendants. So, in other words, when someone dies, their rights don't dissipate. They pass to their estate. And this becomes really important. Opening an estate is part of bringing an effective claim because your estate claims will be different from the claims of the family. I don't have to go too deep into this right now to just explain that opening an estate is really your first step in most cases in bringing one of these claims. The estate also allows the family to figure out who is really going to be the chairperson for the family, the person who's going to have the right to settle the claim, figure out how much it's worth in consultation with the attorney. The estate is opened typically by the next of kin, but it's whoever is named in the will as the executor has the right to bring it. If there is no will, or if the people in the will don't want to serve, then there's a Pennsylvania statute called the intestate statute that lays out who has the first right to bring this claim. We've covered the details of opening estates in other videos and in other articles on our website, but simply put, this is where you're going to go down on behalf of the family and swear an oath before the court in the county where the person lived when they passed away, and you're going to then receive the right as a result to bring any claims on behalf of that person to settle their bills and their debts within the value of the estate. Now, the next question we always want to ask in these claims is, who are the beneficiaries? The proceeds of a wrongful death or survival claim will go to the family members and other beneficiaries of the estate, not just to the executor who's responsible for bringing the claim. The Wrongful Death Act, the statute that I talked about above, provides that the spouse, children, and parents of the person who passed away are entitled to receive shares of the total award given by a court or a settlement. This is true even in cases where one or more of those groups of people didn't really want the lawsuit to be brought. It's also true in situations where someone's will cut out a family member in some cases, or did not provide, perhaps for the parents, for example, to receive it. In some cases, they still may be entitled to a part of those damages. Survival action damages, on the other hand, go to the estate. The money awarded as part of that claim, they're taxed as part of the estate, they're distributed as part of the deceased person's will, however that will laid out for the proceeds to be distributed. Once again, if there is no will, Pennsylvania has a statute to decide how those proceeds will be distributed. The proceeds from a survival action are taxed, and the proceeds from a wrongful death are not. So determining how much is wrongful death and how much is survival action is something that's really important in bringing the lawsuit and in how you settle the lawsuit. In many cases, the tortfeasor or their insurance company, the person who caused the death, they may not care how you distribute it, but the Department of Revenue in Pennsylvania does, and so you have to go in front of a court with your final numbers and have them to approve it. One of the most important aspects of hiring an experienced wrongful death attorney is you want to bring in someone who's caring, but who's also capable of being dispassionate in their analysis. That is, someone who really cares about you and the family, is really looking out for your interests, but is willing to say hard things or to figure out, in some cases, who you might need to go after. That brings me to another question. What happens if the person who caused the death in your family is in your family or is someone you loved? Perhaps this is a situation where a husband and wife are driving and the husband makes a wrong turn and pulls in front of a vehicle and the wife is killed. Those sorts of tragic situations really are hard for a family, and I think those are the situations where a wrongful death attorney is really the most important for a family, because we can help you figure out whether there's an insurance policy that will pay a benefit as a result. This is not just life insurance, by the way. This is car insurance. This is sometimes house insurance where there's a house fire or a death as a result. In many cases, the person responsible for the wrongful death is insured, and as odd as it might seem, it is appropriate for you to bring a suit against them, even if they're in your family, to make sure that that insurance company has to pay for those damages. You've paid for those insurance policies for years. It's important that those insurance companies pay the appropriate settlement when suddenly that policy is invoked. Obviously, this can be really hard. It can lead to a lot of emotional concern and trouble. It's really difficult if maybe the family member who caused the death doesn't understand how important it is that the insurance company pay. That's why we really help families to walk through these questions and figure out how to handle that and what the moral questions are that are involved as well. Because for everyone, that's a really important issue as well. In car accident cases specifically, it's important also to remember that determining who is at fault at the accident is just the first step. There's a web of insurance law that covers car accidents. You're required to buy car accidents, to buy car insurance for accidents in Pennsylvania. Families are often surprised to find out that their own insurance is obligated to provide payment in these situations. So as an initial matter, it's important to know that an insurance policy's death benefit or the funeral benefit is not the only funds you're entitled to as a family. Pennsylvania's Motor Vehicle Financial Responsibility Statute, which is at 75 PA-CSA Section 1702, provides that car insurance of family members who were not involved in the accident may still provide coverage under what we call stacking underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage. So whether there is coverage or not depends on a careful reading of these policies and the declaration pages that come with them, and also an understanding of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania's recent rulings on stacking waivers and other issues. The bottom line is this: if all that seems like too much, your loved one's insurance, as well as your insurance, may provide more than just death benefits under policies. We're not just talking about life insurance. Your car insurance may be implicated too. All of this brings us to the question of taxes. Wrongful death proceeds, as we discussed, they're exempt from income and inheritance tax. Survival action proceeds are taxed through inheritance. In most cases, you don't need to provide any income tax payments as a result of this money. So it's really important that you consult with an attorney who can help you walk through these difficult issues. At Cornerstone Law Firm, we have a lot of experience at helping families through these really difficult decisions and this difficult time. And we understand that the first thing that you want to talk about when you come into our office is not typically money. It's not what you're most excited to think about. No one's happy about a wrongful death claim. In fact, it's extremely painful. But we believe that it's important that you pursue your legal rights and that where appropriate, that you pursue wrongdoers who caused death. If we can help you, give us a call. We'll be happy to give you a free consultation about your wrongful death case and to discuss whether we can help you.